Good morning, Vlogmas. So it's day 11, it's the 10th of December, and as you can see we managed to get a live tree yesterday. I showed you that at the end of yesterday's vlog, but we now decorated it. We may have reached peak tree. Obviously next year this artificial one won't be going up, we're going to be getting rid of that one. Partly because it's old and tatty, and partly because the cats chew on it, and it being plastic, we're not overly keen on them nibbling bits off that. Whereas this one, so far, they've paid a lot of attention to the soil in the pot, because it's a potted one, so we'll be able to grow it on outside next year, bring it back in next year. It should be about another foot in height, but they've not really attempted anything on the branches as of yet. Obviously there's still time, but yeah, they seem more interested in the soil than the trees, which is why I've covered the top of the pot up a bit. And then it came with this garland that's under the heater, because we tried putting it on top of the heater but it blocks the controls, which is not ideal. That is also real fur, so we'll be keeping the decorations of that and getting the getting rid of the oh, words are failing me, I haven't drunk my coffee yet. So yeah, we'll keep the decorations of it but get rid of the actual garlandy bit for next year, once that starts to get tatty. Although some of the bits don't feel real, it is a real garland, so at least some of it is real bits of pine. There was also a wreath that came with it too, so that's on the door. And again, that's got real pine in it, so we'll keep the decoration bits off it and get rid of the pine as the year, because we won't be able to keep that nice and in good condition until next year. So, I suppose I best drink my coffee before I get on too much with the day. You might be able to hear Madam purring. There she is. Yeah, she knows I'm talking about her. Yeah, you're sitting on my lap whilst having breakfast, aren't you? So I've got some pasta to make later on. I have a pattern that I've printed out that I need to put together. It's a lichen duster pattern, which I'm going to be using for a summer weight dressing gown. The challenge with finding dressing gown patterns is not that there aren't any there. There's tons, but I didn't want the basic square kimono style dressing gowns that you normally see. I wanted something a little bit more involved to sew, although I'm using a slippery fabric, so that might not be the wisest choice, and also with a bit more of a flair to its shape. So the lichen duster, well, I'll pop it up on the screen somewhere. It was one of the Sew My Style patterns this year, but I didn't manage to get it made in the month. I sort of fell off the wagon late summer with that. It's obviously not designed as a dressing gown, but it can be used for a dressing gown. It has a high-low hem, but also has a straight hem marked on the pattern pieces. It's got gauze in it, it's got a long shawl collar, and a nice depth of wrap over, and it's got pockets as well. So it's going to have a bit more flair to its shape than standard kimono style dressing gowns. And the sleeves are a narrower fit than the standard dressing gown pattern, which is what I was looking for. So yeah, so I've got that, and I do also have another duster pattern to modify, because I've got some sheer georgette material. These are both fabrics from Minerva, and it's super sheer. I was going to make a dress out of it, but when it arrived it was a lot more sheer than I'd anticipated. So I mean, I could do the lichen duster out of that as well, but what I'm thinking is I like the look of the maxi dresses over jeans in like the spring and summer. So I'm going to adapt a duster pattern that came free with a magazine. So I believe it came free with a magazine. I think it's some McCall's or a Burdick, something like that. But there's a seam line on the front pieces at the just below the bust, so I'm going to use that view, but I'm also going to put the seam line in, I think, across the back, and create a waistband to cinch in the duster to turn it into more of a dress type shape, and then put buttons on just the waistband bit so that it closes at the front, and gives that sort of silhouette of wearing a maxi dress open over jeans and a top. But it is super sheer, so it won't quite have the same look as the dresses I saw this year. I'll try and find a picture of what I'm talking about and put it up. But yeah, that's my plan, is to take a basic duster pattern, the straight duster, and yeah, just modify it to cinch in the waist a bit, so that I can wear it over jeans and give that silhouette. And yeah, come the spring and the summer, because it's such a lightweight fabric, it'll give me an extra layer against like breezes and what have you, but it's not going to be overly hot. We have been getting some hot summers lately. So yeah, so that's the plan. So I'll hopefully get at least one of those patterns sorted out this week, and cut out. I'm probably going to have to cut out the lichen duster on the flat, I think, because the fabric is so silky and slippery, which is always fun to cut out on the floor. And I have done it folded. There's plenty of pins, I can do it folded. One day I'll have a house that's big enough to have a room with a cutting table in it, or a dining room, and put cutting mats on a dining room table. I don't have either of those things at the minute, but it means I can't use rotary cutters to cut things out, which would be ideal for the slippery fabric, pattern weights and rotary cutters, but pins and scissors it is. Okay, so on Thursdays I water the plants with my fancy smancy, hold that better, fancy smancy indoor watering can, otherwise known as a recycled milk bottle. I'll just put holes in the lid. This is a Peacock Plant, which is rather cool. It's my favourite plant because it has beautiful leaves, and throughout the day it closes up and reopens. It's what they call a prayer plant, so that's pretty cool. Over here I have a prickly pear. Obviously, being a cactus, that doesn't get water tipped on it, but I do give it a bit of a spray. And over here by the door we've got a Flamboyant Tree that I've grown from seed. This is another one where the leaves move throughout the day. I've got two of these. This is a smaller one. I don't know why it's smaller. Germinated at the same time as the other one, so who knows. And the other one is sitting over here behind Leo. This is our larger Flamboyant Tree. And here we have a Chinese money plant. I also have a couple of chilli plants in the kitchen window, but I've already watered those. The only other one to do is the string of hearts, which is a semi-succulent. So I do sometimes put a little bit of water in the pot, but it mostly just gets a spray. It doesn't need as much water. Be every few weeks or so I'll put a little bit of water in the pot. It does need potting on. At the moment it's in a yoghurt pot, but it is ready to go into something bigger, which means I need to make a bigger plant hanger. So yes, that's my Thursday routine. I'm not going to water the Christmas tree today, because obviously it only arrived yesterday and they'd watered it fresh before delivery, so the soil was still very damp when it arrived yesterday, so I'm not going to water that today. I might water it in a day or two, and then it'll join the others in the regular Thursday watering cycle, as long as it's inside. Obviously I do water the outside pot plants as well, when it doesn't rain much. Don't need to worry too much about that in the winter, but during the summer or dry spells they get a regular water too. Okay, so I'm in the kitchen, just about in shot. I'm going to make some pasta for tonight's dinner. It's quite simple. I've been doing this since lockdown started and we couldn't get pasta, and yeah, I quite enjoy it. So I'm going to make the pasta dough now, and then later on we'll roll it out and cut it. I don't have a pasta machine, so I roll it out with a rolling pin, as thin as I can. I'm going to start with some flour and go from there. Okay, so we need 300 grams of plain flour. Oh, I think I had about enough in my box. Yeah. Oh, that's a little bit over. Let's take this spoon and take a little bit out because we don't want too much flour. It won't come together if it's too dry. Okay, there we go. There's 301 grams of flour. That'll do, it's close enough. Oh, noisy box, I know, but hey. I'll take that off the scales. Then we want a pinch of salt. I've got a little bit of salt left over from a baking kit. I do a grocery run, so I will get some more proper salt, as in a box of salt or a container of salt when I do the grocery shop. There we go, pinch of salt. This is left over from a focaccia baking kit that I got from Baked In. Okay, so now we're going to make a little well in the middle of our flour. Not that anything is going to stay in that well once I get going, but hey. And we need 3 eggs. So 300 grams of flour, 3 eggs, and a pinch of salt. And that is all you need. So now I'm going to take a fork and just start to combine the eggs in with the flour. You can use a mixer with dough hooks on if you want for the next bit. A standing mixer would be brilliant for it. I only have a hand mixer, it does work fine, but because I'm filming I'm going to do this by hand because the mixer's noisy. So let's take my rings off actually. I'll use that hand. Okay. That ring doesn't want to come off today. Okay, so we can combine the eggs and the flour together until they form a dough. Obviously it can be a little quicker in a stand mixer. I find that using a hand mixer, because I'm using it in this bowl, if I put the mixer in too soon, obviously the flour goes everywhere. We don't want that. Sometimes you might want to add a little bit of water to the mix, depending on the size of your eggs really. And obviously you want to be using large eggs ideally, but eggs aren't uniform in size, so you may find that you want to add a little bit of water if it's not coming together, and I think I may need to do that, so I'm just going to take my head of my measuring cup. You really don't want much water because you don't want it to go too sticky. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit in, work that through. And if I need more in a bit, I'll put more in a bit, but just be a tiny bit at a time. We're nearly there, so I'm going to tip this out onto my surface and move the bowl out of the way. Because sometimes I find that kneading on the surface actually helps to bring things together as well. If it doesn't all go in, it doesn't all get combined. That's not the end of the world. And I've done lasagna with this quantity of pasta, and I comfortably feed 3 adults with this pasta, and that's including 2 men who eat for England. So we do generous portions in this house. So yeah, you could quite comfortably feed probably a family of 5 with this pasta, depending on how much sauce you put with it and what sides you put with it as well. And yeah, 300 grams, 3 eggs. You can upscale that if you need to, if you find it's not enough for your family. Just 100 grams more flour, 1 more egg. But this should be plenty. It does make quite a lot. Once I've got the dough to a good, nice, smooth consistency, I'll leave it to one side and let it rest for at least half an hour. I mean, you can leave it in the fridge and rest it there till you need it, so you can make it quite far in advance. But you do need to get it to come out to room temperature before you roll it out. So if you are going to put it in the fridge, bring it out half an hour before you want to shape it. It's really coming together now. It's starting to pick up all these bits of dry flour that didn't quite make it in before I tipped it out. Got an itchy nose today, so rubbing that on my sleeve. So my hands are clean and I want to keep them that way. Bar obviously the pasta. So it can take a few minutes to get the dough to the consistency that you want. It needs to be smooth. It doesn't want to be sticky, it doesn't want to be wet, but it needs to be smooth. And elastic, so you want it to sort of bounce back into shape if you poke it. This is the bit that's quicker with a mixer. But there's something about kneading things by hand. I mean, you're just trying to get it smooth and elastic. You're not trying to make it rise or anything like bread would. And we're very nearly there. So it's bouncing back, it's almost smooth. There we go. So it's bouncing back in shape when I poke it. It's a smooth ball type shape. If I was going to put it in the fridge, I'd wrap it in cling film. You can wrap it in cling film to set on the side to rest as well if you want to. So I think in the States, I think that's called saran wrap. We call it cling film because it's filmed and it clings. So yeah, so I'm going to leave that to one side. I'm actually going to pop it back in its bowl and cover it with a tea towel because plastics. And then I'll come back to it in half an hour or so. Roll it out and cut it, set it to one side, let it dry a bit. You can cut it out immediately before you cook it if you want, or you can let it dry and then store it. It's just the same as when you buy fresh pasta from the shop. Okay, so it's time to roll out the pasta. I'm going to be using a pizza wheel to cut it to make sure I get relatively straight lines. I'm going to be dusting my board, rolling it out as thin as I can, cutting it and then laying it on sheets of baking paper to just hang out until we need to cook it. So there we go, there's my pasta all rolled out and cut up, ready for cooking tonight. So I'm going to cover that up so the cats don't sit on it and clear up the mess.